Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with President Trump at the White House earlier today after arriving in Washington on Sunday. The meeting comes on the heels of President Trump's new tariff policy in Israel's dramatic expansion of its footprint in Gaza Strip since it resumed its war against Hamas. The meeting is attracting a lot of attention as Prime Minister Netanyahu was just in Washington in February for President Trump's first meeting with a foreign head of state as he began his second term. Joining me now to unpack all of this is Chris Mitchell, the Middle East Bureau Chief at CBN News, who joins us from Jerusalem. Chris, welcome back to Washington Watch, and as always, thanks for staying up late for us.
Sure. Glad to do it, Tony. Important things happening here in Jerusalem and certainly where you are in Washington.
Now, according to reports, this visit was scheduled with only a few days' notice. My sense and what I'm hearing from others that I'm having conversations with is that since the Prime Minister was just here in February, for him to returning so soon would suggest that this is a very significant conversation taking place.
I would agree, Tony, and I think it's very sensitive and significant and likely revolving around what the U.S. and Israel will do with Iran and its nuclear sites. Will they attack, or will they delay it, or will there actually be direct or indirect talks with Iran over its nuclear program? The U.S. is making it clear that Iran has to eliminate its nuclear program. Whether that does it voluntarily or through a military strike remains to be seen. It's unlikely, it seems, after the long history of Iran and its nuclear program, that they would do so voluntarily. So perhaps this meeting has to do with plans to have a joint U.S.-Israeli strike, and/or maybe it's the Israelis who really want to make sure that President Trump doesn't get bogged down in endless negotiations. And there's a date certain to when these talks may end. We know, Tony, that President Trump sent a letter to the Ayatollah Khamenei, talking about the negotiations, but he put a 2-month limit on it, which is going to expire not too far away.
The conversations that I've been having on both sides, Israel, the United States, by those that are kind of in the mix, is this is the time. I don't think anyone disagrees over the timing that this is the moment in which this threat has to be removed, whether that's voluntarily, as you pointed to. And I think the analogy there, or the way forward with the voluntary, is like what we saw with Libya, where there is a voluntary dismantlement of their nuclear plan that is overseen by other countries, including the United States. There's only one other option, and it looks like both countries could be prepared to take that other option if necessary.
Yeah, and if you look at all the military assets that are being brought here to the region, Tony, it looks like the military option is the way that it's going to go. If you look at Diego Garcia, they're in the Indian Ocean. They are B-2 bombers, B-52 bombers. You have 2 carrier strike groups in the region, a third on its way. So the military assets are just, getting more and more assets here into the region, and you would think that this is going to be a joint strike. For the for the Israeli perspective, Tony, to have the B-2s and where they can have a 30,000-pound bomb called the MOP, the massive ordnance penetrator, that really is what probably can really make a difference in some of these sites in Iran right now that are buried deep underground, concrete hardened, and Iran has done that because they know that. So we try to make it invulnerable to any air attack. But with the B-2s, the B-52s, added to what Israel can bring with its F-35s, it looks like a pretty formidable attack against these nuclear sites, which are spread throughout Iran purposely to avoid, like a single strike that happened in 1981 in the Iraqi reactor, and then 2007 against a Syrian reactor. So Iran knows what it's doing, but they're facing right now the possibility that their nuclear program might be get hit very hard.
So, Chris, talking about the military, let's talk about Gaza, because it does appear that Israel is accelerating their activity there in Gaza. And I would interpret that as wanting to bring this to a conclusion pretty quickly, allowing them to turn their attention elsewhere.
Yeah, what they're doing is setting up security zones. So they're actually eliminating all Gazans out of certain areas within Gaza, like in Rafah, areas between Rafah and Khan Yunis. They're shrinking the territory that Hamas is able to control. They're also cutting it into different security zones throughout the Gaza Strip. So, yes, it seems like they want to bring it to a conclusion, put more pressure on Hamas, hopefully be able to put the pressure on so that more hostages would be released. But I think this idea of a security zones is really a bit of a game changer here right now in the battle, a year and a half now against Hamas. And I think Israel is taking a much more determined stance against Hamas with this new military operations in the last few weeks.
And Chris Mitchell, more evidence coming out as documentation found among the rubble there of Hamas-controlled areas in the tunnels of this collaboration between Iran and Hamas, and how October 7th may have in fact been funded by Iran.
Yeah, it was released by Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz, where some of the documents were from Yahya Sinwar and his number two man, Mohammed Deif, where they were getting $20 million a month, up to $500 million to prepare for annihilating, as they say, the, quote, Zionist entity. And part of that translation, Tony, they said that, Allah willing, we will actually meet in a liberated Jerusalem. So the idea was that they could actually defeat Israel, and not only that, but also come here to Jerusalem, which is the goal not only of Hamas, but also Iran as well, to liberate Jerusalem, to destroy the Jewish state, and all part of the documentation that they're finding right now to show the financial connection between the Islamic Republic and the Hamas leadership, all before October 7th.
Now, wasn't that at the same time that the Biden administration was releasing funds or making funds accessible to Iran?
I mean, it's such a tragedy, Tony, that actually the U.S. was, easing sanctions on Iran. For 4 years, the Trump administration had the maximum pressure policy that was nearly bankrupting the Islamic Republic. And when lifting the sanctions, it literally gave billions of dollars back into Iran's coffers. And they were able to use that to actually fund not only October 7th, but the Houthis down in Yemen, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and all designed at the time to have this ring of fire around Israel and really eventually destroy the state of Israel. But here we are over a year and a half after October 7th. Hezbollah is nearly gone, so is Hamas, and the Houthis as well.
I mean, you cannot deny the impact of America's foreign policy and how we engage. I mean, here we are, here we were, we're not doing it now, but making it easier for Iran to have the excess revenue to fund terrorist activity and attacks on Israel that we in turn helped fund them to defend against. Tell me that makes sense.
It makes no sense, Tony. And I remember being with you and a group of other Christian leaders that repented at the site of the Nova Music Festival for funding UNRWA, which was part of, allied with Hamas there in the Gaza Strip, and helped facilitate that massacre that we were there and saw the many signs of many of the people that were murdered on that day. And so I think that was a moving time to actually repent for what the U.S. was culpable for, not only with UNRWA, but also helping to fund the Islamic Republic.
Well, it is certainly something that Americans, Christians here in America, need to be praying, because we were complicit, not directly but indirectly, by allowing Iran to have the capacity and the capability to inspire and fund these attacks on Israel. We just have about a minute and a half left, Chris, but more information coming out of Hamas. The Jerusalem Post reporting that what most of us realize, Hamas was lying about the numbers when it came to fatalities. It was not children and and women. The vast majority was, in fact, those that fell in the age category of terrorists and warriors.
Yeah, thousands. They've taken. Hamas itself has taken off these roles of those that have died. You know, at the very beginning of the war, it was the Hamas health ministry that started promoting these numbers, all in a way to exaggerate what Israel was doing, and all the way to demonize Israel. It's all part of their propaganda war. For those that have been, covering this for 20 years or so, it was a movie that we've seen before. Hamas typically exaggerates the death count. They talk about more women and children than actually men. So this is something that finally is coming out to the light. And the major media, including even the Biden administration and other nations, just took these numbers by Hamas at face value and just ran with them.
And I haven't seen them correct it either. Chris Mitchell, always great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Tony.